This is an extremely flammable cleaning solution. And these are basic welding coupons. And we're gonna use these to make the hardest TIG welding joint that I can think of today. Might not be the hardest, but it might be the funnest. This is just basic aluminum plate here. And taking a look at this original practice coupon, you can look at the dimensions of the plate here. You can see this stuff is super common to use and fine for practice. You can see as I'm laying it out here, I am dividing each plate into halves. These squares are 3 inches by 3 inches. And then I'm dividing each of these squares into halves, making triangles out of them. We're gonna cut up a bunch of these for this first stage of the project here, 6 of them to be exact. Now as you're cutting these, try and cut them as perfectly as you can. The straighter you can cut these lines, the better. And you're gonna see why in a bit here, hang on. This point that we're at here, this is the first step. But after you've cut these out, this is the most important part, check it out. We've got to clean these edges up mega carefully. Each edge, you can see I am buzzing flat with my belt sander here. The belt sander is a finer grit, and what I want to do is get rid of most of the egregious stuff that my bandsaw has left behind. And I kind of want each surface to be completely flat for the most part with no burr or any ragged edge left behind. Now, to prepare these, I'm going to decontaminate them thoroughly. And then what I'm going to do is this technique here where I brush the edges with a stainless steel wire brush. You've all seen me do this trick before. This is a bit of the extra mile that it takes to make your stuff really look good in the end. You're going to see why in a bit here if you haven't seen me do this before. If you do not take this kind of care with preparing your joints, we cannot be friends. I'm kidding, of course. We can still be friends, but without this kind of edge prep, my work is gonna look better than yours. So you can see all prepared how silky smooth all these edges look. So let's tack it together for the first stage right here. You can see what I'm doing is I'm just tacking them along the long edge of the triangles here. And as I'm doing it, I'm holding it at a bit of an angle, almost as if there's a bit of a spine to each one. Tack them as close as you can. And then when you're done, you can then tap them into shape to match each other so they're perfect. And you can see here for the most part that all these pieces match exactly to each other. This is what you want. Now it's time to get excited. We need to assemble step 1 now. Oops. What you're gonna do is take these pieces that we've pre-assembled and you're going to tack them tip to tip. And again, we are going to be making adjustments to these after we tack them together, so just make sure that you get good tacks on them. This way we can flex them around for better alignment later. Now, after I get them assembled at this stage here, there is one very important step. Check this out. You can see that I'm basically just using a combination square here, and I'm using it to check that each seam or the spine of each of these assemblies is square to the bottom edge as it sits on the table. Again, you can make these little adjustments as you go, and then you can check out how I'm doing it here. This is even better for alignment. After you get them square to the table, I want the spines to be level to each other as well. So this way you can make sure it can sit flat on the table, either on its bottom or on its side. Make any adjustments as you need to. And then heck yeah, bud. Let's get on the next step here. We need to cut more pieces for step number 2. This is where you are gonna have to test your overall eyeball as far as attention to detail and your fabrication skills. Each tiny inaccuracy that we made with our cuts earlier, like we talked about, plus each slight angle where the alignment wasn't perfect where we assembled everything together for step 1, it now all adds up. You'll find when you mark out what you need as far as shapes for step 2 here, not all of these triangles are going to be the same as one another. Each of these is going to require a bit of a different fit up. So what I'm going to do is trace my notches out here and mark them individually, and I'm going to cut them and keep them organized by numbering them individually. Each panel is going to be cut the same way, prepped the same way, and then cleaned and decontaminated the exact same as the stuff from before. You guys, this will look amazing if you take the time to do these steps correct and put good attention to detail with your preparation. Okay, when you got them all cut and prepared, ready to go, let's tack them up the exact same way. I like to start with these corners right here, and again, I'm just being mindful about how they will meet in the middle. Again, the better of a fit up you can get, the easier of a time you're gonna have to weld it all out later. Take the time to even take your pieces back and skim a little bit off here and there as needed. Make them as perfect as you can for the best alignment you can get. And also make sure that you keep them numbered and organized so you don't lose track of which one fits in what panel. You can see here after I put the top ones on how they are fitting up. Looks pretty good. And you can see I'm actually leaving the centers open for now without a tack here. I might need to make some adjustments later. This will allow me to do it. But for the other 3 panels, I'm going to do the exact same thing. As they get all put in their proper places and I put my tacking in the centers when I'm happy with my alignment at each intersection. And again, make any adjustments at this point before you lock everything in. You can see that I'm just using a couple blocks of scrap material here to just kind of hold things in position. This is going to help out immensely when you go to weld this thing out at the end. And now you can start to actually get a look at what this thing is going to look like. Pretty cool, right? Everything is put together really well with good alignment. The edges are lining up perfectly, and look at the wire brushing. Doesn't that just make your mouth water? But I need to make one more piece that's gonna fit right on top. I'm gonna leave the bottom open because it's just gonna sit on a table or a workbench or whatever. And now I'm gonna cut the cap for the top. Again, this will come down to how close you can eyeball things. I'm just placing a piece of plate on top and literally just marking out my corners. You can also see that I went to go see the Wu-Tang Clan the night before. And then I'm just gonna trace out my lines clearly with a ruler and then repeat the process of everything that we've done so far. Cut everything as accurately as I can, clean everything as best as I can, and then obsessively check the fit up along the way. This one is going to be right on top, which is one of the most visible welding joints. So make sure that you take the time to tack this together very carefully. Again, I am using minimal filler material because I don't want these tacks to be too big. And at this point, I kind of should have my settings all dialed in for everything that I'm doing with my machine here. You can see that today I am using the CanaWeld 201 Pulse D machine here. And honestly, the only thing that I'm really making adjustments to over the period that I've been tacking this together would be my setting of my balance. The amount of amperage that I programmed on the machine is actually set to like too much. It's like an extra 15 to 20 amps that I'll actually end up using. But again, it is all good because I will control how much amperage I am using on the panel with my foot pedal here. Now, the one thing that I want to set absolutely perfect with my settings is the setting of balance. This is one that I obsessively make sure that I get correct. This is going to help to affect and control the quality of my arc as well as the maintenance of my tungsten as I'm welding. Check this out. I have my tungsten prepped with a taper with a little flat spot at the end where I will then ball it with a tiny, tiny ball on the end. I prefer to do this. I don't care what you do. I don't care if you think what I do is wrong. Having a small ball like this is going to give me the perfect accuracy that I want, and I'll be able to dial in my balance within like 5% of what it will actually need. And this one tungsten will last exactly the same for the entirety of this project, as long as providing I don't dip. But this little tiny fella here should look almost exactly the same as it is right now when I finish it at the end. You can see all of the settings that I'm using here, and go check out my gear. It's all listed in the description below. Check out the websites. These little machines are amazing for your home shop. I have used this one for over 5 years here in my shop. It's awesome. Now, looking at this piece, because there is multiple ways that we could weld it, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna plan all of my welding to head away from these open corners right here. Anything that heads towards an open corner like this is gonna overheat. So this is gonna take some planning on your part. I'm thinking all of my bottom passes are gonna head away towards the center here. Then all of my top passes are gonna head down, and they will meet in the middle with cute little buttons, nice and centered, looking pretty. And after all these panels are buzzed up, looking great, I'm gonna TIG out the top triangle and make it look awesome. Now, let's freaking weld this thing. As I get welding here, the one thing that you're gonna see is how much emphasis I put on comfort and posture. I wanna see clearly and make sure that I can travel my whole pass without any issues. The other thing that you're gonna notice I put a ton of focus on is making sure each start is perfect. Watch this again. You can see how much of an emphasis I put on making sure everything is established before I start moving. This workbook is free for you to download in the description below. It goes over all the points that we're going to talk about as we get welding here. Check it out. You can see that the start has to be established completely right at the beginning. Not only is this going to make the rest of your welding pass much easier to manage and maintain, but this is going to build the best looking consistency from the start of your passes all the way to the end. And the details of my stepping that you see here are going to be dead consistent. The distance that I'm taking each step as I travel is pretty much bang on for exactly how much I should be moving in relation to the amount of heat and filler that I'm using. And when we are doing multiple passes that are all going in an intricate pattern, details like you'll see in this book are gonna help you to get a really good looking consistency to your work. Another thing you can do to help yourself out is make sure that this piece doesn't overheat and it stays kind of cool in between each pass that you do. You can cool it down with an air compressor or whatever you may have. You can see here, I have a leaf blower. It works fantastic. It literally takes like 30 seconds and this thing is nice and cool again. Now looking at part one of this joint all finished up, we can see that we have a pretty good start and the directions all match one another so far. I love the way it looks. Now let's weld out the top. As I'm welding here, I want you to look at this area right here. You can see this area forming along the side of all of our passes. This is called the cleaning action. It's really important. We can see that looking at it here, it looks nice and consistent and clean. This is something that you want to watch for as you are actually welding each pass. Check out in the workbook here. You can see this page details exactly what type of cleaning action you should ideally be wanting to see. You're also going to see some common problems that you need to be aware of and watch out for carefully. Go download the workbook right now, it's free. Now finishing up the top plate, let's take a look at it. Look at the patterning we can see here. Everything we planned out as far as the directions look really great and it helps out with everything looking consistent. We don't see any buttons randomly thrown around here and there in stupid places. Everything matches as far as the direction and the planning made it look really good. We can also see overall that the cleaning action looks great between all of the different passes. The amount of cleaning action as the piece heated up and cooled down as we were welding it, we can see the cleaning action remained consistent across each pass, which is very important. I'm really happy with how this one's turning out. Like I keep talking about, all of the details that we're talking about with the welding procedure, as well as your setup with your machine and your settings, it's all detailed and outlined in the workbook. Go do a random act of kindness for a stranger today, or I will find you. My name is Dusty James. Phil and Joe, we will talk soon. Peace.